Radio Lewes, where the music matters.
Hello, this is Swazi. I've turned my headphones up too loud, so I'm going to have to turn them down, otherwise I can hear myself too loud in my head. It's really miserable out there. I know that we were having a heat wave about 2 weeks ago, and everybody went crazy and took all the shorts out of the loft and sundresses and flip-flops, and now everyone's really surprised that it's cold again. But what everybody forgets is that we always have one good week in April, and then we have horrible weather the rest of the time. And I say this because my birthday's in May, and we never know if the weather's going to be good enough to have a barbecue on my birthday. So I know this, but people always think, well, it's spring now. Why is the weather not better? It's because it's always like this. You know, that's how it works. So if you are complaining about the weather, hopefully we can cheer you up with some good music. A couple of weeks ago, I did the Record Store Day show, which was the Saturday Live. And there were so many great tunes that I didn't get round to playing. So what I'm going to try and do is mop up some of the ones that I didn't get round to playing. And a lot of them were people's second choice rather than their first one. So I played everyone's first choice. And then there were a few that didn't make it. And some of my own ones I didn't get to play because I wanted to play other people's choices. And one of those was, I talked about buying picture discs at Spinner Disc in Coventry. And the one that I remember was a shaped picture disc of a song by Faith No More, and it was taken from the cover of that single, which was a splash of fire. I can't explain it, you kind of have to see it. I'll try and tweet the image to you. If you want to follow me on Twitter, it's at Swazi Rogers, or you can follow Radio Lewes at Radio Lewes. And it was a picture disc in the shape of this kind of flame dropped into a puddle. And it's a brilliant song. And I never played the record because I didn't want to, I wanted to keep it in pristine condition. So I've still got it. And then the other day I heard Faith No More on the radio, which I'd never hear ever anymore. So I'm starting the show with Epic.
It doesn't matter anyway. You will never understand it cause it happens too fast. And it feels so good, it's like walking on glass. It's so cool, so hip, it's alright. It's so groovy, it's out of sight. You can touch it, smell it, tastes so sweet. But it
That's Faith No More. And as you can see, now you know why it's called Epic, you see. It's an epic record. I saw Faith No More live quite a few times, actually. I have a feeling I saw them at Donington. I'm pretty sure I saw them at Donington, and I know I saw them at the Hummingbird in Birmingham, because I went to the Hummingbird quite a few times and went there for the last gig that was played, which was, I think it was the Red Hot Chili Peppers that played there. And I can check that, but I'm pretty sure that I've got that right. And they were fantastic, obviously. Also saw the last gig that was played at the Hammersmith Palais, which was The Fall. And if you haven't listened to His and Hers, the reunion, we do talk about going to that gig. And His and Hers is essentially me and my husband, Tim, choosing songs on a theme. So we choose, the format normally runs as alternates. So we play his and then we play mine, and then we play his and then we play mine. And each of us chooses our own based on a theme. So we've done themes like autumn, or singers who we'll never get to see live because, you know, either they don't perform anymore or they've died, or people that we, you know, the gigs that we have seen either together or separately or whatever. So we've had different themes, and we've done colours, numbers, days of the week, months of the year. All these themes have been done previously, but we did our first show on Radio Lewes together, and it is available on Spreaker. If you haven't heard it, please do, because it is it's good fun. We enjoyed doing it, so I hope you enjoy listening to it. Now, for those of you who've been following closely, it's coming up to the time that I'm going to be cutting off my hair for Macmillan. It was going to be last week, and then it all kind of, Macmillan asked if they could film it, and I said, yes, that's fine. So it was kind of in their hands when we would do it. So it's now going to be on the 1st of May. I don't know when you're listening to this, but 1st of May is the big day. And two things that are going to happen. One is that I'm going to cut off all the hair, and I'm asking people to sponsor me for that for Macmillan. And people have been very generous and very kind, and I've got a great total of money there for Macmillan, who provide fantastic services, and I'll talk more about them shortly. The other thing is the hair that I'm cutting off. I've been growing it since January in order to donate it to Little Princesses Trust, who make real hair wigs for children living with cancer. And I wanted to do this because I thought, if I am going to do this, I think the most people that can benefit from it should. So the idea is that Macmillan, who provide fantastic services, both for those living with cancer and the people around them, will benefit, because friends and family, people who I've cared about, in some cases who I've lost, have benefited from the work and support of Macmillan, and they are pretty much an essential service if people are living with cancer, either from the very beginning, from diagnosis right through the process. And last week I was going to visit a lovely friend of mine, Julia, who had a very recent diagnosis, and it was full on. I mean, it wasn't a small thing. This was lots of things all at the same time. And she's received amazing support. And I was going to go and see her at the Marsden. And I just sent a message to say, how are you doing today? And her husband said, it's not a good day. She's feeling very sick. If you could put it off for another day, please do. And I was talking to him, and it occurred to me that actually this is why Macmillan do what they do, because he's there every day, and it is exhausting. And she is going, she is the one that is sick. She is the one that is having the treatment and the operations and all the stuff that's going on. But he is also experiencing this with her as her partner, as the person who is by her side. And that's why the work that Macmillan do is so amazing, because they are there for the other people around the person that is having the treatment as well. And they are there to provide support and counselling and whatever else it is that you might need. And from talking to him, I could see that how valuable that really, really is. Not that I didn't know before, but, it's something that is current, as well as something the whole thing was started by the loss of a very great friend and of a family member in January. With great irony, both of them died on the same day, and both of their funerals were on the same day. It's all a very fraught time. And then, having made this decision, now another friend of mine is undergoing very serious treatment, and the prognosis, I'll be honest, is not good. So this is a case of kind of being as comfortable as possible and buying as much time as possible. This is how it's working. And so the work that Macmillan do, and in fact any organisation working with people who are seriously or terminally ill, is amazing, which is why we're also doing the Bollywood Movie Night in June. And it's free to come. It will be a ticketed event, but it's free to come. I have said I'm going to do a poster for that, which I haven't done. I've just remembered I haven't done the poster for that, so I will get on with doing that. But we are going to do a collection for St Peter's and St James's Hospice, which I know a lot of people who listen and a lot of people who are connected to Radio Lewes have benefited, or have certainly their family members have used the services of the hospice. So we're going to do something for them as well. So they're all kind of similar, they're all kind of related, but you know that this is what we're doing right now. This is kind of my focus right now. So I wanted to play some amazing music for you on Record Store Day, and there was so much of it that I had loads left. And this was one of the tracks that I had left, and this was a choice by John, our lovely director and man in charge. He's kind of the brains behind Radio Lewes, but also I asked him for a couple of song choices and he gave two, one of which was Prince Buster, which I did play on the day, and another one I didn't get around to playing, and I felt so bad about it because he doesn't ask for much. But I did actually think I'm going to get around to playing this for him. And I'm trying to find the story that he told me about it, which I will tell you afterwards. But this is The Guns of Navarone.
Don't play now. This one that we go to the studio and make to cool the guns in Jamaica. The name of it, The Guns of Navarone. Pipe, pipe, pipe. Rastafari.
That was, I'm going to say Scartolites, but it might be Scatolites. I think it's Scartolites. That must be because it's Scar, isn't it? So I did tell this story on Record Store Day, but I'm going to tell it again because it's great. And John says, my double choice is Al Capone Prince Buster, which if I've got time I'll play later, which came out in 1964 when I was 12. It played in the clubs I managed to get into as I looked older. My peers were still buying clothes with their mums at the Co-op, but by that time I was 13 and it was underage working and up to Carnaby Street and a weekend of bopping to what we called Blue Beat after the record label, but better known as ska or rock steady. The forerunner of reggae is the quintessential Jamaica sound. There are lots of great tracks in this genre. Some favourites are The Guns of Navarone from 1961 and Swan Lake by the Bees, a unique rendition of Tchaikovsky. So thank you so much to John for choosing that. I forget how much I like ska, because a lot of the music that we hear now that is called reggae and ska is samples of lots of other things. And when you actually hear something that is a little bit more unspoiled, it's quite nice. So when I was playing some Bill Withers stuff a while back and I heard is it Grandma's Hands, and I remember hearing it sampled in No Diggity, but actually hearing the original was so beautiful. In fact, I might dig that one out because that one's lovely. So it's really nice to hear songs that haven't been messed with, and to hear the original ones sometimes, because we get so used to hearing the samples. The other day we were in the car, me and my husband, and we heard the song that was sampled for Ride On Time by Black Box. And he said, this is the track that was sampled. And I went, no, it can't be. And he said, no, it is. And it was essentially the same thing, but they just shouted over it. And I couldn't quite understand why that was the decision musically that they'd taken with the song. But yes, anyway, don't quite know where I went there. But there were quite a few songs that I played on Record Store Day that I thought were worthy of another play, and we probably will get round to those. I didn't get to play my own choices, not because I was being very worthy or anything, but just because I wanted to make space for everyone else's and I ran out of time. So I did talk about Jesus and Mary Chain and how they were the band that kind of made me realise that there was music out there that appealed to me, because the music that I was hearing didn't. So whether it was chart music or whether it was the music that my contemporaries were playing, the stuff that they were talking about that they liked. I remember Reet Petite coming out and one of the guys in the sixth form saying that was his kind of music, and this sort of marked him out as being a bit alternative. And then there was a girl called Amanda and a guy called Bennett who came back after the summer holidays and they'd turned goth. So they had the winged eyeliner and they dyed their hair black and were wearing long black coats. And so that was kind of, there were those kind of, you know, the exemplars of the music. And I think when I went to university at the University of Warwick, there was a whole goth scene up there, which I don't think London really had anymore. So that was quite exciting. And I loved a lot of the music around that as well. Some of it was quite dour and miserable. But the stuff that I really liked was the stuff that kind of was called alternative. So I discovered that there was all this stuff out there like Mudhoney and Sonic Youth and Stereo Lab and various others. But my kind of gateway into all this was the Jesus and Mary Chain. And it was this song. You can see why I describe that as a gateway, because it's quite relaxed and quite low key. I don't know why everything's playing for some reason. Stuff's just playing randomly that I haven't asked to. So it's this. Where was I? I was talking about Jesus and Mary Chain. So it's quite a relaxed and it's a good introduction. And I remember, I guess that the reason why I got into it was because it was controversial, and there was a lot of controversy around the lyrics and what they meant and what they were talking about, and people were absolutely outraged by it, which I think is brilliant. And I guess that probably kind of made my ears kind of open up to them. And I thought, oh, what's all this fuss about? And I remember going to buy the 7-inch single. So I did have that as a 7-inch single. I probably still have it somewhere. But quite a few of the artists that I've liked have courted controversy, and I think that's possibly some of the appeal. I mean, Killing Joke, Prince had all sorts of controversy around being too sexual, being too explicit, all of that stuff. So definitely something that I've kind of quite embraced in my music taste. So I'm now going to play something by Prince because it is this month was the anniversary of when Prince sadly died. And I remember speaking to Soraya about it and saying, this is just gutting. You know, we've lost Bowie, we've lost Prince. And we had no idea what was to come. You know, we didn't know how many others were going to go. And it still feels weird. And when I hear a song that reminds me of Prince, I'll play Janelle Monáe. I played her last Monday, and it was a song that very much sounds like it was produced by Prince. And she did say that he had a big influence on the last album she made. He did work with her on that album, and you can hear it in that. This is a very early Prince track from the days when he was still considered quite controversial. And strange enough, it's called, in his own words, Controversy.
Controversy. Do I believe that?
Kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Controversy. Controversy. Controversy.
That was Prince and Controversy, which I mentioned that they were. I have quite a thing about bands who have been controversial. Don't ask me why. I think it's probably just me being a little bit contrary. Is it me being contrary? I think it is. It's probably me being contrary, isn't it? And so that's why I've had the whole thing about those bands in the past. But I also feel the same about theatre, that there are shows that are controversial. I don't always go and see them just because they are. But I went to see one on Saturday, which I didn't know much about it. They haven't really said very much about this show in the reviews that I've read, and I can see why now. Now that I've actually been to see the show, I understand why it's so difficult to explain it, because having seen it, it kind of is almost impossible to say what you've watched. I came out of it feeling very confused and I just unsettled, really unsettled. And I can understand why that is, because it's meant to do that to you. It's quite... The idea of it is that some of it is happening as though it were on stage. So some of it is a rehearsal of a show, and then the kind of post-show conversation, which is kind of staged for you. Some of it is the writer's life at home with her partner. And then there's a whole bit which is kind of tribal and kind of dreamscape-like. And then at the end of it, the male director comes in and says, yes, but that's not going to work in the West End, is it? And that's exactly what everyone in the audience is just thinking. So some of it is very self-referential and some of it is very, we know what you're trying to do. But some of it's just very, very uncomfortable. There are some really uncomfortable bits with it. So a lot of the reviewers have said very similar things. They've given it lots of stars. So it's had kind of like almost across the board 4-star reviews. It's written by Ella Hickson, and it is provocative. It is irritating. There's a lot of kind of meta stuff going on there. It talks about gender and power, of the value of art. It's quite fierce. It is not for the faint-hearted. And actually, I went to a matinee on Saturday, and there was a thing I've discovered about matinee performances: the audience is significantly older. To be honest, theatre audiences are older. I go to a lot of provincial theatre, and audiences are older. And I'm. This is not intended to be patronising, but I'm not entirely sure that was what they came to see. Certainly, the guy that was sitting in front of me fell asleep, so clearly it didn't engage his interest at all. But it was at points just conversations between people, and then it was suddenly become really meta. So there was a point when a baby was brought on the stage, and earlier they just discussed how it was such a cheap trick to have a real baby on stage, and you are completely distracted by the fact that there is a real baby on the stage. And Samuel West handles it beautifully. Romola Garai is extraordinary. She is absolutely extraordinary in the lead performance, as I expected she would be. And Samuel West kind of plays off that really well. He plays a couple of characters, as he said on Twitter, neither of whom have a name, but does it really well. So at the beginning, he is the on-stage depiction of that director, and then later on, he is her real-life boyfriend. So really interesting staging. The staging of it is extraordinary. It is absolutely extraordinary. The stage is transformed into different things. It's very bare to one point, so bare brick, and it's a large stage at the Almeida in North London. It's somewhere I've not been before. I've been to a lot of theatres this year that I've not been to before. I'm kind of becoming a bit more of a theatre tourist than I ever was, and seeing this performance and seeing just how much they transformed that space was really interesting, and just gave me a real appreciation of how hard they've worked to put it together. It's 2 hours straight through without an interval, and I'm enjoying shows without an interval at the moment. I like the fact that you don't have to break your suspension of disbelief, and that you stay in the moment, you stay in the art and you stay in the story. This doesn't really have a story. It doesn't really have a flow or a series of events. At some points it feels like it doesn't have a script, but clearly it does, because you can buy it. One of the pieces, one of the reviews that I saw says the piece has a tricksy self-deconstructing format handled with witty aplomb in Blanche McIntyre's superbly acted production. It makes us rethink each of the previous scenes. So it enables Hickson to add ever more layers to explore the question of whether improving the status of female writers in the theatre will require a more fluid approach to form. And it talks about patriarchy. There is an awkward Q&A where Romola Garai is very nervous. She's the author of the first scene, and it's being critiqued by her director, who isn't very helpful. And later on, he says it's the best scene in the whole thing. And it's quite an interesting piece of work. I mean, if I sound like I'm not sure, I have to say I'm so glad I went to see it, but it was very weird and confusing. But I'm so glad that I got to be there to see it. And it is running for, I think, another month. So if you get a chance to go and see The Writer at the Almeida, North London, do. It has only just opened at the end of April, and it's just had press reviews and everything. So the press reviews don't tell you anything useful. You kind of just have to go and watch it and just be in the space. Now, I mentioned before this that there was a track I played last week by Janelle Monáe, which for me channeled Prince perfectly, and is kind of keeping the memory of his style of music alive. I know he wasn't the only person to do it, but I very much associate this sound with Prince, and I'm very appreciative to Janelle Monáe for making this song, and for how it makes me feel. Yeah.
Baby, don't make me spell it out for you. All of the feelings that I got for you can't be explained, but I can try for you. Yeah, baby, don't make me spell it out for you. You keep on asking me the same questions. Why? And second guessing all my intentions. Should know by the way I use my compression that you got the answers to my confessions. It's like I'm powerful with a little bit of tender and emotional sexual bender. Mess me up, yeah, but no one does it better. There's nothing better. That's just the way you make me feel. 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 So good, so good, so fucking real. That's just the way you make me feel. That's just the way you make me feel. That's just the way you make me feel. You know I love you, so please don't stop it. You got me right here in your jean pocket, right now, laying your body on the shag carpet. Oh, you know I love it, so please don't stop it. It's like I'm powerful with a little bit of tender and emotional sexual bender. Mess me up, yeah, but no one does it better. There's nothing better. That's just the way you make me feel. 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 So good, so good, so fucking real. That's just the way you make me feel. That's just the way you make me feel. That's just the way you make me feel. Oh, that's just the way that I feel now, baby. Good God, I can't help it. Hey, that's just the way that I feel. Yeah, please, I can't help it. It's like I'm powerful with a little bit of tender and emotional sexual bender. Mess me up, yeah, but no one does it better. There's nothing better. Damn. That's just the way you make me feel. That's just the way you make me feel. So good, so good, so fucking good. That's just the way you make me feel. 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 You make me feel so good, so fucking good, so good, yeah. That's just the way you make me feel. That's just the way you make me feel.
That ends too quickly, and I always end up playing the next song too quickly. Sorry, I'm kind of blaming the equipment for my incompetence this morning. Happens all the time. So, went to see 2 shows last week, and I've told you about one of them, and the other one was one that I took my son to see, and I'm going to see another show tomorrow. So, the one that I took my son to see was Awful Auntie, which is a David Williams book turned into a live show, and it was really good fun. I mean, again, staging was amazing for it. Bear in mind, I've seen Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, so I've seen the most epic, amazing staging of shows in the West End. This was an equivalent in terms of just the awe that you get from seeing how the stage kind of revolves and moves and does stuff. It's quite a dark story. I was really surprised at how dark the story goes, and it's the auntie is really, I mean, she's worse than awful. She has staged murders. She is worse than awful. She is really bad. But there are slight affectations, like, you know, she says Stella Weller, Auntie Wanty, you know, that real kind of ingratiating way of being, and it beautifully played. I'm trying to find out who all the people are in this so that I can tell you, because it was so well done, and I did actually get a programme, so I'm sorry that I haven't been very organised about it to tell you who everybody is. It's quite a long show. It's about 2 hours long. And it says it's suitable for 5 years and up. My son is 7, so I took him to see it. I didn't take my younger one because I didn't think it would appeal to him. And I'm glad I didn't, because I think it would have been quite scary for the little one. But beautifully done. They do have a Twitter handle for it as well, Awful Auntie Live, and they did engage with it. And if you tweet a photograph of you with the programme, you can win a copy of the book. The reason that I'm mentioning it is because it's going to be on in Brighton on June the 6th, Wednesday, June the 6th to Saturday, June the 9th. So you'll be able to catch it in Brighton if you want to go and see it. And there are quite a few performances of it because we went to see it in Wimbledon. Then it's going to be at the Churchill Theatre in Bromley. And I'm just going to check what times it's on. So it's going to be on, there's a 7 o'clock showing on the 6th of June. There's a 1:30 and a 7 on the 7th of June, a 10:30 and a 7 on Friday the 8th of June, and a 2:30 and a 7 on Saturday the 9th of June. It will sell very well. The David Williams shows are very, very popular, so it will sell well. So I'm telling you now, if you want to go and see it, I would get in there early. And there is an interval in the middle, and they do lovely things. The programme, it's quite pricey, but the programme has lots of stuff in it, and they do some really nice little stickers and things as well. So it's a nice family thing to do if your child is old enough to follow the story. It is a little bit grim in places, but very nicely done. I was pleasantly surprised because I'd thought, kids show, I'm not sure if I'm going to enjoy it, although I have quite a good tolerance for kids shows because I do go to the theatre a lot, and it was nicely done. And on that topic of going to the theatre a lot, on Tuesday I'm going to see Birdsong, based on the Sebastian Faulks novel, and the idea behind this is that they're also going to be doing an exhibition with it, which I think is going to travel with the show. The stage version has been produced by Rachel Wagstaff, directed by Alistair Watley and Charlotte Peters. And marking the 100th anniversary of the First World War, Birdsong is the hit, critically acclaimed stage show based on the world-famous novel by Sebastian Faulks. In pre-war France, a young Englishman, Stephen Raisford, embarks on a passionate and dangerous affair with the beautiful Isabella Zare that turns their world upside down. As the war breaks out over the idyll of his former life, Stephen must lead his men through the carnage of the Battle of the Somme and through sprawling tunnels that lie deep underground. Faced with the unprecedented horror of the war, Stephen clings to the memory of Isabel as his world explodes around him. A mesmerising story of love and courage set both before and during the Great War. This compelling production of Birdsong has been seen by over 200,000 people, so I'm quite excited about seeing it. The cast members are Tom Kay and Madeline Knight. And Tom Kay was in the recent production of Journey's End, which was performed at the former World War battlefield in Ypres. And Madeline Knight has been in Poldark and Florence Foster Jenkins. So it's sounding good. It does sound good. I do like a good love story. The other day, I actually watched for the first time in my life The Notebook, which everyone tells me is fantastic. You know, everyone has been telling me how wonderful it is. And I've never got round to watching it. So I thought, well, I'll watch it. I'll see what all the fuss is about. And I enjoyed it, but it wasn't as much of a tearjerker as everyone had told me it was going to be. And then we took the kids to see Coco at the weekend, and that was lovely. But again, maybe my tear ducts are much more finely tuned. I grew up on Bollywood movies, so my capacity to cry at storylines. So when I went to see Blood Brothers, I went, but this is the story of every Asian film, every Bollywood film I ever saw growing up. You know, two boys separated at birth, go on to completely different paths, meet again later in life. That's the basis of every Indian film. I'm going to play George Ezra. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about the stuff coming up at Westgate, and then we'll call it a day, shall we?
My love, my lover, 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 I'm in paradise whenever I'm with you. My mind, my mind, well, it's a paradise whenever I'm with you. Ride on. Well, I will ride on down the road, I will find you, I will hold you, I'll be there. It's long, well, it's a mighty long road, but I'll find you, I will hold you, and I'll be there. I know you heard it from those other boys, but this time it's real, it's something that I feel it. I know you heard it from those other boys, but this time it's real, it's something that I feel it. If it feels like paradise running through your bloody veins, you know it's love heading your way. If it feels like paradise running through your bloody veins, you know it's love heading your way. time. My time, well, it's a never-ending helter-skelter. We'll be out whatever the weather. My heart, my boom, boom, heart, it's a beat and it's a thumping and I'm alive. I know you've heard it from those other boys, but this time between it's something that I feel it. I know you heard it from those other boys, but this time it's real, it's something that I feel it. And if it feels like paradise running through your bloody veins, you know it's love heading your way. If it feels like paradise running through your bloody veins, you know it's love heading your way. Paradise, roll on, meet me there, roll on, 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 paradise, roll on. Meet me there, roll on, paradise, roll on, meet me there, roll on. If it feels like paradise running through your bloody veins, you know it's love heading your way. If it feels like paradise running through your bloody veins, you know it's love heading your way. I know you've heard it from those other boys, but this time it's real, it's something that I feel it. I know you've heard it from those other boys, but this time it's real, it's something that I feel it. If it feels like paradise running through your bloody veins, you know it's love heading your way. If it feels like paradise running through your bloody veins, you know it's love heading your way. If it feels like paradise running through your bloody veins, you know it's love heading your way. If it feels like paradise running through your bloody veins, you know it's love heading your way.
It's George Ezra and Paradise. I love his voice. He's got such a fantastic voice. Now, I promised I was going to tell you about the Indian movie night, and I have found the date. So I can now tell you it's going to be on Saturday the 16th of June. We're going to be showing Gubby Cushy Gubby Gum, which I've told you before means cushy means happiness. That's what we call my son, because when he was born, he made us happy. Things have changed since then. He drives us insane now, but obviously we still love him very much, in case he's listening. So, yes, so Gubby Cushy, so sometimes happiness, Gubby Gum, which is sometimes hardship or sometimes difficulty, which I guess is only to be expected in any life, isn't it, really? So it's an epic story. It travels from India to, I think they go to Switzerland at some point, and then they're in London, and then it goes everywhere. So I think it's a brilliant story. If you want to come along to it, as I say, we're not going to charge for tickets to come in. You come along and you enjoy yourself, and at the end of it, we'll ask you to make a contribution towards the hospice, and we hope that you enjoy yourself and you get to come along and see what we can do at Westgate. And we've got a really great big screen, so it's going to be on Blu-ray so that you get the benefit of the most fantastic facilities that we've got. So we're hoping that if you can come along, we hope the weather's going to be better than it is now, obviously, because it's June. We can't promise anything, but we hope it's going to be better than it is now. And we will have a bar. There's going to be a licensed bar there. So come along, have a drink, enjoy yourself, watch a Bollywood film, dress up if you want to. We're not, do what you like. Come along and enjoy it. The main thing is that you come along and support our fundraiser, and that you support Radio Lewes. I'm going to finish up for today, because it's absolutely tipping it down. I'm going to finish with Sneaker Pimp's Walk the Rain. Thank you so much for listening. Do follow me on Twitter at Swazi Rogers. You can follow me on Facebook, Swazi Radio DJ. You can follow us at Radio Lewes, and you can hear this whole show, if you've missed any of it, is available on Spreaker, as are all of the shows I've done before, under the banner of Something for the Weekend. And if you are around and fancy it, I'm going to be doing Saturday Live this Saturday. So join me for 2 hours of I don't know what yet. I haven't decided. All the best.
Radio Lewes,
Radio Lewes.
where the music matters.